Evening. So, pull up a beer and let's talk 3.5 inch wagons. My name's Jeremy. Even though I'm based in Canada, you might be able to tell from my accent that I'm actually English. I'm London born and raised, and I make 3.5 inch wagons. Cheers. In the winter, in Canada, because the winter lasts about 500 years, and you got to have something to do with your time. So I started making wagons in between building steam trains with a couple of friends of mine. And I figured I'd give you a quick talk through what is actually included in the kit, the prices. I was going to do a build video, and I set my GoPro up here to actually do that, but I realized it would be very long and very boring, so I figured I could do it quite easily just by showing you the kits. So winter started about, it feels like 12 years ago. And a good friend of mine, Keith, from the Montreal Live Steamers, went some mineral wagons which are sitting over the back, and I made those for him. I've still not given them to him, they're still sitting on the shelf. And I built a caboose. I built a caboose kit. Let me grab a caboose kit for you. And I started building caboose kits. This is a 3.5 inch caboose, and it's massive. It's all made out of 1/4 inch plywood with all the roof spars, and it comes with HDPE windows, the window frames that are cut out, a door at either end, and a base that you can actually mount it to. But the thing is, if you notice just down here behind me, I don't have any American trains. All I have is British. I've got a 1 inch Wainwright, a 3.5 inch Britannia, a 3.5 inch Hall, a 1 inch Pacific. So it's a lie, I do have an American train, but it's 1 inch, and I'm not building 1 inch cars, I'm building 3.5. I have a County that's almost finished, and we're in the process of building 2 3-cylinder V2s. So what I did with Keith was Keith sent me some drawings and some models, and I ended up building this. This is the prototype. This is 1/4 inch plywood with a base on it, and this is the basis of the kits. It's the first one I built. It turned out quite well, and I ended up putting flexible plywood on top for the roof, and it turned out quite well. There's a few things I didn't like. It's a bit wobbly down here where it's got glued, and the problem with plywood is when you get it, you don't know who's glued it, you don't know a bunch of stuff, so it generally ends up being crap. So because I was making something, I made this. This is made from HDPE, and you can see the details much better, it seems, with the lighting that's down here rather than on my little turntable. And this is the kit that I've started building and started selling. This one is for Keith, it's the first one. The one I'm going to show you is my one. Now, the difference between this and the kit that you actually buy is I've actually done some finishing work on it, and there's rail actually on the bottom all the way round to go through. The bases are milled when you get them. I haven't done a base for this kit, but the bases are milled to actually take 1/2 inch aluminum or brass or whatever your fancy is. Now the problem with this one is this should have been round the other way and flat, so I did make a bit of a boo-boo. You can see what it is, and this is my basis, is in the kit you get 2 sides that are milled with all the details in. You also get a small end piece, the end with the door which is in here, the end with the windows, and you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spars. Now this is important, take note. There's 2 different types of spars. There's the short spars like this, and then there's the long spars which are actually a little bit deeper for a little bit more rigidity. The short spars, one is for the front and the other one is actually for the rear, so it doesn't occlude the windows at the back in case you want to put windows in or anything else. So what you get in the kit is two sides. I've added a little bit of colour onto these. They will need chopping down a little bit. You can see they're notched to actually take the spars, and what you need to do is once you've got it all square, the ends go inside, not on the end. So what you're going to do, I don't have an end piece here, which is rather silly, but what you're going to do is if I grab the end piece actually fits inside, not on the end, it actually fits inside. So these are actually pre-drilled, and I'm not sure you'll see them on the camera. There's 1, 2, 3 holes that you'll go through, you'll drill a little bit, countersink on this side, and then you'll just screw it together. What I use when I'm actually building these things, I wish I hadn't put a train in the way, are these. I do a bunch of woodwork, so I have a bunch of 90-degree clamps. 90-degree clamps, you can actually go through, get your end, get your piece, line them up, make sure it's all nice and square, screw and drill. So you get two sides. This one I've dumped a little bit of colour into the nooks, so you can actually see these are 1/16 inch milled all the way through. So this whole thing is cut with a 1/16 inch bit. This one I've just thrown a bunch of really quick acrylic onto it. It looks like absolute crap. I was just doing a colour test and apparently it just scratches off, because I should have probably done a base coat. I just did this really quickly. These windows aren't cut out when you get them. I don't want these top pieces to twist, so you can cut these out. And the interesting thing about these is when you do cut them out, if you're a little bit smart, what you can do is where the sanders are, they're a little bit too small, but you can actually use one here and one underneath and build the veranda off. You also get these little pieces here, which are the sanders. Now, it's just a little block and a little nubbin, and you can glue them together and stick them on to actually approximate the sanders. The other thing you get in the kit, obviously, is the far end with all the window holes cut out. Again, you'll have to clean these up, and then you get the door end with the door actually milled in so you can go through. I've just actually ordered some 3.5 inch doorknobs from, it's either Mac Models or AJ Reeves, I'm not sure. I keep getting boxes from either company, so I've got a doorknob. And then the other thing that's really interesting is I ordered a bunch of 3.5 inch 3.5 gauge stanchions that you normally have on the locomotive to hold the handrails. I've ordered these so I can actually do the wiring, and then where the gate would be, I'm going to put the two little handrails on. So like I was saying, you get a bunch of roof spars that are milled out, so you can see they've got a little, get some focus, they go through. So this is one end, this is the other end, the two far ends. One of them goes behind the actually behind the window thing, so it'll actually end up fitting onto the model like this at the end, so you have the two pieces. The other one's right at the front at the end of the veranda, and then you have the three big spars that go through. Now if you feel that the model's a little bit too wobbly, and it's not even when you're just screwing through, what you're doing is when you're mounting these, because they're nicely notched out on top, they actually fit in pretty snug. What I do is I drill through from the top, countersink, and then screw down, and the model, once you've actually finished doing it, is nice and rigid, it's super solid, and it works pretty well. The other thing you'll get are these little 90-degree brackets. You get these so you can actually, on the inside, screw your model down. I'm including 6 with the model. This one only has 4 in it, 2 on the sides, and there's 2 hidden up under the front where there's 2 screw holes here. It's actually screwed down, and then actually my veranda piece is screwed in. What I'm actually going to do with my version of the model is put one of these into it, a smoke generator into it. So what I'm going to do is these 2 sanding blocks will end up, one will end up being a switch for lights, and one will actually end up being a switch for a smoke generator, so it looks like they've got a fire going on inside. My other plan is to put perspex on the inside and smoke the glass, so it's not just holes at the end, it's actually got some, I'm not going to cut glass holes, I'm just going to recess it on the inside. So that's it. The other thing I'm messing around with, and this is one of the reasons for it, is there's these little bits. These are for holding the foot rails to the side. When you actually see one in real life and you actually see the models, it's actually got to step down and go through. They're actually a little bit too big, because once you put your U-rail on, I've chopped this one down. This was a little bit too long. It actually fits in like this, but it's a little bit too deep on this side, but it will come down. If you wanted to, you could actually go through, notch a little bit so it sits flush. If you notch your U-rail here, you could notch it and then have it sit down flush, and then it would actually be more prototypical for what you need. The other thing I'm actually going to be offering, and people have asked me about this, it's like, it's nice that the model is there, but it's the undercarriage that people seem to want. I have these. Now, I get these made, I do not have a 3D printer. These are made by Shapeways, and they look like this, and they have a hole in it for your axle, which you may need to bore out. I would probably bore it out, stick a bearing in there for your axle. So they've got mounting holes up here, and there's actually mounting holes here, so you can decide how you want to use them. I have these, and I'll be perfectly honest, like I always am, I'm not in this to make money, I'm in it to help the hobby grow. Those parts, and this will make you laugh, the kit's 75 English, of your finest English pounds, $130 Canadian or $100 US. The amount of money I'm making, these things take 4.5 hours to mill out. It's actually 2 milling processes to get it, because 2 sheets of HDPE that end up looking, one of them looks like this with the sides, and the other one, which, have I got one? The other one ends up with other ends and roof pieces and whatever else. The amount of money I actually make from this entire endeavour is enough for me to buy a 6-pack of beer. And I'm quite happy earning a 6-pack of beer. If you want 4 of these with your kit, these cost me $106 including shipping US. That's $139.10 Canadian, which when you divide that by 2, if you want 4 of these, and I'm not keeping them in stock, I'll order them as needed. If you're ordering in English pounds, it's going to cost you 40 quid on top of the 75 just to get 4 of these. If it's American, it's $53.20, and if you're Canadian, it's nearly $70. Now, I'm doing this for fun. I'm not doing it for profit, and I'm not doing it for fame. If the kits sell, and there's this Great Western Railway Toad, as soon as I finish doing this and mucking around with the video, I will be starting on an LMS guards van. There's 2 versions of that, one with a window, one without. The one with the window will have the window pieces, but will require some sanding upon your part to fit them together and glue them all together and everything else. But there'll be those 2 coming. I have a mineral, well, I have the caboose as well, but that doesn't come in plastic. All of the kits I'm planning on doing are always going to be quarter-inch HDPE, because it's weather resistant, it's quite durable. Bit of a pain in the ass to paint, it seems. I haven't done too much with that. It's strong, it's sturdy, it gives a good weight to the kit, and it's going to be pretty well bump resistant. And they'll come out quite nicely. What else did I want to say? Yeah, so the LMS, there's 2 versions of that coming. There's the mineral wagons coming as well. all of them, the LMS, the GWR, the mineral wagons, all of them generally use something like this. And if I actually sell enough kits, I will probably not use the money that I make from this for beer. I'll actually use it and buy a 3D printer. If I buy a 3D printer, the cost of these is going to go down massively. But I'm talking about selling 20 kits, and unfortunately it means the first people that are buying the kits are going to pay for everyone else getting a cheaper product. But that's the life. I don't have a 3D printer. I have a $4,500 CNC machine to build these with, and I didn't buy the machine to build these. I actually was doing other things, and I ended up getting into this. And the last thing I'd like to thank a few people. I ramble a lot. A few people. The prototype GWR Toad is obviously wood. That's going to stay in the basement, and it's never going to get finished. But it's kind of a nice reminder of what you can do when you put your mind to it, and you've got people around you that help you and do the modelling for you. The first one, which is the one I showed you with the base on it. Oh yeah, shit. Sorry, you get a base as well with your kit that's milled. I think I said that. But the first one, because people like provenance with these things, the first one of these that I've ever made is going to Mr. Keith Wood. The prototype is staying here. Number 2 went to Graham Jowett over in the UK. The third one, which is this one, is actually for me. I'm actually building it for myself. It's very rare that I build anything for myself. I always end up building it and giving it away or something. I built 3 of those cabooses. I gave all of them away. And now the other one is John Guest Summer. He ordered one, and that's his one down there that I need to finish cutting out, pack up and get off to him in the UK. And of course Greg Emerson. Greg Emerson's got the first caboose, the first wooden caboose that I made specifically for sale. He has that, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. But thank you guys for supporting this. I'm trying to keep costs down as much as humanly possible. Obviously this is not cheap, so I won't keep them in stock. I'll order them as needed, which, you know, slows stuff down a little bit, but that's life. But that's it. Thank you for buying the kits. Please share it with your model engineer friends when they see it and go, oh, where'd you get that from? Please. I started a page, 3.5 wagons, I think, 3.5 gauge wagons on Facebook, so you can actually come find me very easily. If not, you can always find me. The details I'll put on the bottom of the screen. Jeremy Dowsett, and my email address is here as well. Like, contact me if you have questions. So after I finish all of these wagons and kits, and they're ready to go and people buy them or don't, if they don't buy them, they don't buy them. I make them all to order. I'm not keeping them in stock. It's like, hey, I'd like a GWR Toad. It's like, okay, cool, give me a week, because it will take me about a week, because I do have a day job. This isn't what I do for a living. I'm not financially stable enough to retire, so I do this on my spare time and in the evenings. Someone's asked for a LMS teak wagon, but that's way behind the GWR Mark 1 coaches, which I'm hoping to start prototyping before the winter's over. So thank you for listening to my ramble. Thank you for supporting a fellow model engineer. 2 of you have bought me beer, which is always nice. That's it. If you have questions about any of the kits or anything else, I'll put on the screen when I'm done bits where I'm getting the doorknobs from and where the stanchions are coming from. Most of my stuff comes from the UK. All of my steam fittings are from the UK. All of my brass tubes are from the UK. And most of my English, all of my locos are pretty much English. So yeah, London born and raised, live in Canada, and I make wagons. If you want some, please contact me, and I'll do my best to keep you happy and make sure you get what you want. Peace. Have a good evening. Cheers.